Well, last week, for all our viewers assume that tuned in, Rabbi Friedman led us on an amazing Talmud tale of a guy named Rabbi Yair, and he got in this fight with a river. I'm going to summarize it real quick. Fight in the river and him argued back and forth, and Rabbi Yair won. That's it. So Rabbi Friedman figured we had such success.
That's right.
Last week, so we're going to take on Rabbi Yair Part 2.
Right.
Rabbi Friedman feels that Part 2's the sequel's work. I mean, he's figuring, Godfather 1, Godfather 2 was a great thing. But, thinking, there's some failure. Now, Porky's was a great movie. Porky's 2 never worked out. I'm sure you saw that one, Rabbi. Porky's 2 was not good. Hangover 1 good. Hangover 2, 3 not as good. So there's a lot of failures in this. I know you've seen this. But I think Rabbi Yair Part 2 is a risky attempt by Rabbi Friedman. In fact,
they say the sequels are not really ever
sequels
as good.
Are never as good, except for the Godfather one worked.
Yeah.
In fact, I even had a bet with the camera guy over here, Ken, that if Ken can stay awake for this whole thing, that he wins. Which is I don't know, I might lose this one, but we'll see. But it's about Rabbi Yair again. He gets in an argument this time with his donkey.
Right. Is that the complaints we've been getting about that sound in the backgroround, folks? It's the cameraman snoring.
Right. It isn't me snoring. Even when my eyes are closed, I'm in deep piety, deep thought, so it's not me.
Right.
Okay, so can you talk?
Well, first of all, I just want you to know, when I walked in and I saw the donkey here.
Right, yeah.
So I thought immediately, this is it. Jeff's coming out of the closet as a Democrat.
No.
Yeah. This is it.
If the closet door opens, there's so many more things that can come out as before the Democrat.
We're finally going to see Jeff joining the Democrats there. Jeff and the donkeys. Okay.
I don't think so. But okay, listen, there's always a shot of that.
Yeah. So Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair. So last week we had him, and he was traveling along. And remember, he is on his way. This is really important to always remember the context. He's on his way to free captives, or captives, when he ran into this river and he had a problem with the river, and the river ultimately split for him and let him across so he could go on his way. Okay? And we talked about that idea, that confrontation between someone who is doing God's will, like the river, the thing that's doing God's will, and the rabbi who's trying to do God's will. And I think our theme was, in general, that the fact that he was trying to do God's will was doing God's will. Because our job is not to do God's will, but to try to do God's will. That's what we're all about. Okay.
And I've been trying all week just because of that.
Right, and therefore you've been doing God's will all week long.
That's what I'm going for.
There you go. Okay. And that should be enough to forgive you, even, if it turns out that you're a Democrat and you've been bamboozling everyone all this time. It's just a show. It's
just like in a debate. This guy's a liar. No,
it's just a show, Okay. When they list all the donors to Hillary's campaign, go to the G's right away.
I thought the Clinton Foundation was something totally different. I don't know what happened, but anyway, I'm sorry.
So they move on. Here's the story. They move on. And remember, they're moving on towards their goal of freeing the captives. This is going to be significant. And what happens? They move on and they get to an inn. They got to stay overnight. Right? Get dark. They've got to stay overnight. Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair. And his name is significant also. We're going to get back to that too. Pinchas ben Yair. So he stays overnight in an inn. And of course he's got to put his, park the car. You give it to the guy at the front.
Right.
You give him the donkey. He gives you a little valet ticket, a claim check, right? Mm-hmm. And he takes the donkey off and parks the donkey. You go in and check into your room.
Right.
Okay, he goes and checks in his room. They take the donkey. Part of the deal is he's supposed to feed the donkey. That was the deal. When you put the donkey in the inn, you parked him in the barn. Right. They're supposed to feed him overnight, so that when you left in the morning, your donkey's fed and ready to go.
Totally logical.
That's just standard, right?
Yep.
So they tried to feed the donkey. Donkey wouldn't eat. It wouldn't eat. Oh. So they tried, as it says here, got the passage from the Talmud. They tried to feed him barley, but he wouldn't eat it. They sifted the barley. He wouldn't eat it. They then removed all the remaining impurities. He still refused to eat it. You see, they thought he was like a finicky donkey. He only likes really, really pure sifted barley. But As much as they purified it, he wouldn't eat it. So Rabbi Pinchas suggested, could it be that the barley wasn't tithed? Now, what's the deal? Everyone knows that when you raise crops in Israel, you have to take off 10% and give it to the Levites. And if you don't take off your percentage and give it to the Levites, and a little percentage also to the Kohens, if you don't do that, then the food is not allowed to be eaten. Now, the truth is it could be eaten by an animal, but people are not allowed to eat untithed food.
Right.
The donkey was refusing to eat. So Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, who, this is the key point, was famous for being very, very scrupulous about tithing all of his food.
Right.
Pinchas ben Yair said, maybe it's not tithed. They tithed the food, and the donkey ate it.
Wow.
There you go. It turned out, he said, this poor creature is on its way to do the will of the Creator. Meaning, he's helping me get to where I'm going. I'm freeing the captive. I mean, I can't get there without the donkey, right? See, he's just like I'm trying to do the free the captives, he's trying to also. Okay? And therefore, and you wanted to feed it untithed grain? Come on, this guy's busy doing a mitzvah, and you want to feed it untithed grain? He was shocked. But sure enough, the donkey knew he wasn't going to eat untithed grain, and this, therefore, proves the opening of this whole story, going all the way back to where we started. The opening line of the story is that God doesn't bring a calamity even to the animals of the righteous, much less to the righteous themselves. Okay?
Okay.
So here, therefore, the animal might have eaten the untithed grain, and the people say, well, what's the problem? The Talmud asks, what's the problem? Animals are allowed to eat it. So that's only if it was intended to be animal food, but if it was intended to be human food, and it wasn't tithed, then even the animals are not allowed to eat it.
You mean, so we're thinking this barley was intended to be served in the inn there.
It was intended to be served to people, right?
Right, okay.
And they took some of it to serve it to the donkey. The donkey said, well, wait a second, I'm not allowed to eat that. Pretty smart donkey there.
I tell you.
And besides that, like, how can you tell if grain has been tithed or untithed? I mean, it's just grain, right? Tithe means you got a bunch of grain, you take off some of it, and you give it to.
Right.
Well, it doesn't change anything. It's not identifiable as being tithed or untithed. And yet, this donkey, he knew, and he did not want to eat any grain unless it was tithed. He's very righteous, just like his boss, Pinchas ben Yair. Very, very righteous. Okay? To which you probably have a question.
I got multiple questions.
Yeah.
Number one, this is pretty smart donkey. I'll give you that.
Smart donkey.
Number two, how did he know?
And by the way, donkeys are generally known for, are they known for like being smart?
Well, no, I've never met a smart donkey.
The donkeys are actually known for kind of being stupid, dumb donkey.
Democrat type thing, right? I understand, which I totally am clear on.
So we dish that one up for you.
Right,
okay?
thank you. But thank you very much. But that's one question. Number two, why did the humans not notice this? Why did it take the donkey to notice this?
Mm-hmm.
And number three, okay, is it really that important?
The donkey, the humans. It could very well be that the humans, they knew that it was not tithed. They didn't want to tithe it. You know why?
Oh, they have to get away 10%.
Because it costs 10%.
No, I meant the humans in the inn that were about to eat it, not the server, but the servee.
No, well, we're talking about the servers. The people who are about to eat it, they just are trusting the people that run the inn. But it seems as though the people that run the inn were not on the up and up. There's a little foul play going on here by the people who run the inn. And how is it all exposed?
To the donkey.
The donkey caught him.
That's some major stuff here.
Right. The donkey caught him. So what's the deal? So, you can always ask two questions, and there are two ways to get at the same thing. First of all, I don't understand. What's this, how could this happen and all this type of stuff, right? Or you could say, why do we need to know this story?
That's kind of where I'm going.
Let's just assume that all of it happened the way it happened.
All right.
Okay? Let's just assume that we got this all of a sudden like blazing smart donkey and he can like tell and all this stuff. So, even so, why do you and I need to know? This has got to be in the Talmud so that every generation, forevermore.
I was asking this last night when you told me the topic. So,
Yeah.
I'm curious.
This is essential that everyone forevermore should be able to read this.
Right.
So, this actually is a super, super deep idea.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, there's a lot of different.
My problem right there.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to go with this, but actually, the Maharal of Prague tells it to us as a very, very deep Kabbalistic idea.
Okay.
Very deep. And he says there's a lot of, in this story, the characters in the story all represent very important things. For example, donkey. In Hebrew, you got to go back to the Hebrew names for all these things. In Hebrew, a donkey is a chamor. Chamor. Okay? Chamor. The word chamor in Hebrew, if you take away the vowels, is chet mem resh. Chet mem resh stands for chomer, or material, substance, material things. Now, generally just plain old substance, like things that are dirt, wood. These things are chomer, building materials, chomrim or ingredients, things that don't really have their own identity, but things that we make into other things. That's what chomer is. And the material world is the world of chomer. It's material. Right? Okay. Donkeys are called that because donkeys are really just energy. The donkey was the pickup truck of old. Not much brains. You could load it up with a whole bunch of stuff and it went and it did its job. It wasn't really too smart. You didn't ask for too much from it except to load the load and get the load from point A to point B. It's sort of a brute. It's the brute force of a donkey.
Basic, easy job.
Right. And that's why its name is Chomer, because really all it is its materialism.
Gotcha.
Not more there.
Gotcha.
Now, Pinchas ben Yair. What's Yair? Yair, he's Pinchas, the son of Yair. Yair means to enlighten, from the word or. Light.
Okay.
Right? He's light. Now, his donkey is just material. Now, light and material are usually very far apart. When you talk about light goes on forever and it's indestructible. Material, it's here and it's confined, it's defined and all that. Pinchas ben Yair, what's his big thing that he likes to do?
Talk to rivers and donkeys? He does like that.
Well, he's on his way to
free some captives.
Right. Or another thing that he likes to do that he's very meticulous about is tithing.
Right.
Tithing. Okay. Now, when you take a tithe, let's say you got, a bag of money, and you're going to tithe your money. You got your income, or you have your crop. Right. You bring in your crop. You got your barley crop. So you're going to take a bunch of, percentage, 10% of that crop. You're going to scoop it up and take it over and hand it to the Levites.
Right.
Give your charity, right? Got to do that. What do you do? What do we say when that happens? We say, before that happens, you can't eat the whole thing. Why? Because there's some holy thing mixed in there, and I have to separate it out from the rest of the material so that it can be given to where it's supposed to go. And until it's separated out, you can't send it to where it's supposed to go. Okay. You can't partake of it, can't do anything with it. Okay? So he likes to separate things out. Now, the same thing is when you have a captive. What do you have? What's a captive? So you've got a person that's a free person, but they're being held captive inside another person, like maybe in a prison or in a dungeon or in a room or something. They're like trapped by the other guy. And you want to get them out. You want to bring the light out of the darkness that they're surrounded in. That is what Pinchas ben Yair was all about.
Wow.
Bringing light out of darkness. That's why his big thing was tithing, meaning taking the holy part out of the all the stuff that surrounds it,
Right.
and thereby elevating the whole thing. He took captives away from their captors. See, he had a donkey. And actually, Pinchas ben Yair was a very, very, very holy Jew. Very holy Jew. He had reached a super, super high level. So holy that, the river couldn't stand in front of him.
Oh, wow.
Very special. So holy, actually, that his donkey, not only he himself, but even the material things around him became invested with his spirit and his holiness. His donkey, which is just a plain old donkey. The donkey wasn't a brilliant donkey. The donkey was nothing more different than any other donkey. But it was Pinchas ben Yair's donkey.
His light actually went into this donkey too? Yeah.
So his light pervades out into all that he owns, those that are around him. It gets into the river when the river's in his way, and his donkey becomes like him. Even though his donkey is just nothing but simple material. Wow. But his donkey becomes sensitive to not eating that mixture. His donkey is even bringing the light out into the world. And in truth, Pinchas ben Yair is a very, very lofty example of what we believe the Jewish people are supposed to be. The Jewish people there's a world, and the world's a big mixture. And just like what do we see when the world was created? What was the world?
It was nothing.
It was null and void and darkness on the face of the deep. What does that mean? Everything was a big jumble. And what did God start to do?
Light.
Took out light, and then afterwards he starts separating. He separates the high waters and the low waters. A lot of separating. He separates the water from the earth and the low waters, the high waters. Starts doing a lot of separating and a lot of defining. And then he gets people, and then he starts separating peoples. Right? And he takes out the Jews out of them, first Noah, and then Noah had 3 sons, and separates out of them. The sons have sons, separated out of them. Abraham has Isaac and Ishmael, and so on and so forth. A lot of separating.
Yep.
What the idea is that there is sparks of godliness, holiness in this world, and they're buried in the world all around. Everywhere you go, there's holiness in everything. There's holiness in the table, and there's holiness in the ground. There's certainly holiness in people, holiness in animals. There's holiness in everything. It's scattered all over the place. And what is the job of a Jew?
Bring it out.
Bring it out. Bring it out and reunite it, actually, with its creator. And that's what Pinchas ben Yair was so big at. He dedicated his life to. He was a super in that area. And it got so much so that even his donkey, he changed its entire essence so that it became sensitive. It couldn't even dream of ingesting mixed up food where the unedible was mixed in with the edible.
Wow. It's big.
It's a big thing. It's a big thing. And what it really tells us is that as a person becomes holier and endeavors more and more to bring the light out and to try to find the godliness in things, their property and all those things around them, and certainly the people around them, become elevated and develop a certain sensitivity. If even the donkey can develop such a sensitivity, can you imagine what the people that were very close to him were like? The people that traveled with him, what about it? Can you imagine what his family was like?
You would think, well, again, to take this a little further, so you're saying, if I take my car, and I drive my car to go do a mitzvah, I'm going to load it up with stuff to give to the poor.
Right.
And I'm going to drive it over there, and I'm going to using the car to get there. Is my car holy?
Your car, actually, yes, it is invested with a certain holiness.
But does it stay holy?
It does not necessarily stay holy. There's a famous story of a rabbi who owned a cow, and he sold the cow to a non-Jew. So on Shabbos, the non-Jew would put the cow to work. Right. The cow went running back to the rabbi. He says, "Hey, he's making me work on Shabbos." The rabbi says, "Sorry, I mean, you're not owned by a Jew anymore. Sorry, you just, that's it." The cow was devastated, but that's it. That now you have a different identity. So sad but true. Many many rabbis have been buried with their table. They bury them with their table.
Wow.
Why? Because at their table, they studied, they ate, they performed many acts of holiness that they become like one. Or with their, maybe they have a lectern that they stand at or something like that. They'll actually take it and use it to build the casket or something, or carry them on it, because that was them. Their chair or something like that is invested with a certain holiness, because in it, that person sat and did holy things.
But I guess the question is, let's say I use my trash can to carry food to someone, but then tomorrow I use my trash can to carry trash. Is my trash can still holy?
Yeah, your trash can is holy, but you know what? If you're using your trash can to put like holy mitzvah things into...
Well, it was clean first.
Yeah. Say if you're putting the refuse of mitzvahs in there, then maybe you should be sensitive and not be filling it up with the refuse of some other, like, less reputable
we'll put it this
type
way.
of things.
I'll make it better. You take a bottle of wine. I say the blessing on the wine that I drink. Mm-hmm. And I assume that wine is then blessed, that those sparks are raising the wine's holy. But then I drink the rest of the wine, and we're going to get a little drunk off the wine.
Right, so probably it's not appropriate to take the bottle of wine that you made Kiddush on, then to grab it with you when you go out the door to some illicit liaison where you're going to use it to get someone drunk and do something bad with it. That would be like very inappropriate. More inappropriate than if you just took a regular, undifferentiated bottle and just took it out there and, there is something worse to it, because we do believe that we are elevating the world around us with the performance of good deeds. We elevate our home. We elevate the material of the world, even the animals that become elevated all around us when they become invested in the light. And that if someone's especially powerful like Pinchas ben Yair, whose whole thing is bringing out the light out of the darkness, because that's what he does, he enlightens. And it's really interesting. In Hebrew there's two words, Erev and Boker.
Okay.
Erev means night, Boker means morning, right? Erev means night, Boker means morning. It's very interesting. Everything in Hebrew has a meaning. So why do they call night Erev? Erev really means mixture. Eruv, it means a mixture. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. The thing is, when it gets dark, everything's mixed up. I can't really see what's what. Is that a tree? Is that a post? Is that what's that? Is that a person standing over there? Is that just a bush? When it's dark, you can't see. Everything's all mixed up. It's a bunch of things out there, but you can't see them. When it's light, it's boker. Boker is levaker, to inspect. See, by the light of day, everything becomes differentiated, and things are distinguished one from the other. His whole purpose was to bring light into the world, and we live in a world where there's a lot of mixed up confusion. Things are tangled up, and it's hard to differentiate things that look bad are really good, things that look good are really bad, things that a lot of goodness has bad mixed into it, a lot of bad has good mixed into it. It's a very, very confusing world. And what we're supposed to try to do is try to differentiate and distinguish and bring light, isolate the light and bring it out so that people can appreciate it and use it to see with.
So the purpose of the Jew then is not just to bring out the light in the objects, but into other people, to find the goodness in them, to bring that light out, and to have them obviously emulate that as well.
That's right. And to the extent that even Pinchas he was so good at it that even his donkey was doing it. Not that the donkey was a special donkey, purebred donkey, genius donkey like a miracle donkey. No, what he was the donkey that picked up Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair's essence for being part of him. He was his property, and as his property, Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair's essence was invested in all that was around him.
I get it. This is actually good. Your sequel was actually pretty good here. I like this.
Well,
there was no Fredo or anything like that. It wasn't like The Godfather. You didn't have Fredo in it, but this is actually pretty good.
How many parts? How many Godfather movies did they have?
3 maybe, but I think after 2 I stopped watching. But it was good.
Well, guess what?
Oh no. Yes. Hell yes. Yes.
There you go. Well, you can't wait, right? You can't wait. There is a part 3.
Oh, well, I'm excited about
There
that.
is a part 3. Yes, sirree, folks.
I can't wake up. The show's almost over. I said, no, this is actually pretty good, and I understand this.
Okay.
It's very powerful.
What you see is, even if you get away from this lesson, what you see is these weirdo, wild stories in the Talmud are really some very, very deep stuff.
There's some deep stuff on it. And this one actually makes sense.
Yep.
Good stuff. All right, well, Hangover Part 3 next week.
Next week, watch for it.
See you then.